Heavenly Tomb. A huge square floated in the sky, while 100,000 feet large stone statues stood on it. A faint pressure enveloped the entire heavenly tomb, causing the many spiritual bodies within it to feel a horror that originated from within their souls. Xiao stood on the square. His eyes looked at the incomparably large, ancient god stone statue in front of him. He inhaled a deep breath of air before respectfully bowing towards the stone statue, after which his body slowly rose into the air. Finally, he paused at the hole on the chest of the stone statue. The surface of the hole was filled with a water ripple like faint luster. This light might appear weak, but Xiao did not dare to slight it. This was because this seemingly weak light had easily pressed experts like Gu Yuan and Zhu Kuan onto their knees earlier. Little he had also flashed and appeared on Xiao shoulder at this moment. Purifying demonic lotus flame surged and wrapped around his body. Success or defeat will be determined by this, Xiao muttered. A determined expression rose on his face as he stepped forward and directly strided into the stone hole. Buzz! Xiao penetrated through the weak light. He could clearly sense a kind of probing sweeping past the surface of his body. Everything within his body, including even his soul, could not escape from this inspection. This feeling was as though all of his secret had been exposed at this moment. Although Xiao was being carefully scanned, it was fortunate that the light did not display any rejection against Xiao. Suddenly, Xiao eyes became dazzled. A giddy feeling was emitted from within his mind. This giddiness lasted for a moment. After Xiao finally recovered, he suddenly discovered that the surrounding environment had undergone a drastic change. Brilliant flames filled his eyes. Undoubtedly, this was a sea of fire. Moreover, the sea of fire was extremely colorful. It was so bright that it caused one to be amazed. Heavenly flame, Siha. Xiao lowered his body. His hand gently grabbed at a purple flame, which had appeared. A familiar feeling rose into his heart as he involuntarily muttered, 3,000 burning flame. Xiao opened his stride and walked into this sea of fire, where many different heavenly flames had gathered. While he walked, these flames began to cluster around him. Their manner was as though they had great affinity with him. It seems that your constitution is greatly welcomed by the heavenly flames. Xiao was slowly walking when an elderly voice, which contained some laughter, suddenly resounded over this sea of fire. This sudden voice caused Xiao to be slightly startled. He hurriedly lifted his head and looked at a sea of fire a short distance away. Flames had gathered on that spot. It turned into a huge flame bud that slowly bloomed. An elderly figure in deep-colored robe appeared in Xiao eyes. The elderly figure was wearing a deep-colored robe. His expression did not reveal any uniqueness. If one was to ignore his multicolored bright hair, he would appear little different from those ordinary elders. At this moment, the old man was seated within a flower bud. His elderly face wore an unknown smile as he stared at Xiao. Xiao had already seen this figure many times. However, those whom he had met were either an illusory figure or a fake. This time around, however, Xiao understood in his heart that this was the true Shi ancient god. Perhaps this might merely be a remnant shadow or a soul fragment, but regardless of what the case was, this person was the legendary last elite Do Di on the Do Chi continent. This junior Xiao greets elder ancient god. Xiao suppressed the shock within his heart. He respectfully gave the old man seated in the flower bud a bow of someone from the younger generation. It seems that the mansion that I have left behind has been opened. Shi ancient god smiled faintly. He waved his hand, and the sea of flame in front of him rose to form a fire flower bud. See, Xiao did not put up any act upon hearing this. His body flashed, and he sat down in that fire flower bud. Xiao Yin felt emotions surging in his heart now that he was observing this legendary person at such a close proximity. Only at this moment did he realize that the brilliant long hair of the two ancient god actually had faint fire seedlings rising from it. Immediately, he came to a comprehension. Zhu Kuan had mentioned that the two ancient god was a heavenly flame to begin with. He had only evolved after devouring the other 21 types of heavenly flames on the heavenly flame ranking. Subsequently, he trained for an extremely long period of time before reaching the Do D class. After Xiao Yin roughly glanced at the number of colors on those long hair, he discovered that there were coincidentally 21 of them. Has there been any new Do D appearing on the current Do Chi continent? The two ancient god looked at Xiao Yin as he smilingly inquired. Elder is the last elite Do D on the Do Chi continent until now. No elite Do D had appeared after you. Xiao Yin hesitated for a moment before replying. As expected, the two ancient god was not overly surprised at this reply. Instead, he nodded gently. Is Elder aware of the reason for this? I have once heard my ancestors say that the current Do Chi continent seems to have a missing mysterious energy as compared to the ancient times. Xiao Yin could not resist his curiosity as he asked, "Haha, your ancestor is rather capable. He is actually able to discover this." The two ancient god was a little startled upon hearing this. He laughed. This is indeed the case. With the flow of time, the current Do Chi continent had begun to lack something. This is the critical factor in advancing to the Do D class. Otherwise, regardless of how outstanding one's talent is, one could only stop before the sky. What is missing? Xiao Yin frowned and softly asked. Origin. The two ancient god gently uttered a seemingly deep and unfathomable word. Origin. During the ancient times, some experts refer to this thing as origin chi. This is a mysterious energy that was formed with the world. Only after absorbing the origin chi will one be able to successfully break through the barrier to the Do D class. The two ancient god nodded slightly and replied. Every plane would have some origin chi being formed when it was created. However, origin chi cannot be created again. In other words, every origin chi exhausted would lead to it being diminished in this world. Elite Do D is an existence that surpassed this world. The birth of every Do D would greatly exhaust quite a lot of origin chi. In the face of this expenditure without replenishment, it would eventually reach a point where nothing remained. This is the reason why the Do Chi continent no longer produces any Do D. This is because the current Do Chi continent no longer has any origin chi. Xiao Yin laughed bitterly. This was indeed the case of the predecessors enjoying and the descendants suffering. The so-called origin chi had been completely exhausted by the ancient people. This had resulted in some problems that had to be bore by the subsequent generation. Someone has already obtained the D-tier embryonic pill that Elder has left behind. Currently, that person is engaging in a massacre and forcefully extracting energy in order to complete that D-tier embryonic pill. Xiao Yin laughed bitterly before refocusing on the main topic. No matter what had happened in the past, the thing that he needed to consider now was how to advance into the Do D class and stop Han Tiendi. The D-tier embryonic pill contained a trace of origin chi. If that person is really able to complete the final step, it would not be impossible for him to advance into the Do D class. The two ancient god laughed. He immediately looked at Xiao Yin and said, I am aware of your motive in coming here. Xiao Yan's expression was grave. He cupped his hands together and said, I hope that Elser will aid me. This could be considered a great calamity of the Do Chi continent. I'm not really interested about whether there is a calamity or otherwise. You should perhaps be aware of my identity. The two ancient god laughed. However, Since you were able to come to this place, you are naturally the most suitable person to inherit my inheritance. If you can, Elder, thank you for your favor." Xiao Yin rejoiced. Tushi ancient god smiled and waved his hand. He suddenly beckoned Xiao Yin. A cluster of pink flame immediately rose from within the latter's body. Finally, it turned into a fire baby as it appeared in the former's hand. It was little E, purifying demonic lotus flame. "It has been a long time since we have met." The Tushi ancient god looked at little E in his hand. He laughed softly and said, Little Yi's small face contained an iciness and hatred as it stared at the Tushi ancient god. However, it did not say anything. There was a lost expression flashing over its small face. From the looks of it, it appeared to be unable to clearly remember the distant past. The only thing that it knew was that his feelings towards this person in its heart was a mixture of fear and complicated emotions. "It looks like you still hate me greatly." Tushi ancient god was unconcerned about the emotion in Little Yi's eyes. He turned his eyes towards Xiao Yin and said, "There is a feeling that I am familiar with in your body. If I guess correctly, you should have practiced a mysterious qi method that can devour heavenly flames, right?" Xiao Yin was startled. Immediately, he understood that it was impossible to keep any secret in front of this person's eyes. Subsequently, he nodded quietly. "That qi method is not bad. Back then, I only managed to achieve my future success because of it." Tushi ancient god laughed. "Elder is actually the creator of the flame mantra?" Xiao Yan's expression was slightly altered. It was unexpected that the mysterious qi method was actually created by Tushi ancient god. However, this did make sense. Only such a person could create this mysterious qi method. "Haha, you've guessed wrongly. The flame mantra that you spoke of is not created by me. When my soul and intelligence was formed back then, I had coincidentally found this qi method in my lost state. This had resulted in me undergoing some changes. Come to think of it, this qi method had been of a great help to me. I am also quite curious about its creator. However, I have never met him." Tushi ancient god laughed. "It is really difficult when pondering one's fate. Perhaps the both of us could be barely considered to be from the same sect." Xiao Yin widened his mouth. His heart was extremely shaken. It was unexpected that the flame mantra actually had such a relation to the Tushi ancient god. However, he was unaware of just what kind of outstanding person the creator of this unbelievable qi method was to create it. "Haha, it has been many years since I have talked to someone. I have spoken a lot of unnecessary things today." The Tushi ancient god flicked his finger gently. The endless brilliant sea of fire suddenly shook. Finally, a fire dragon surged and agglomerated into a fist-sized brilliant lotus. Many fire seedling rose on the surface of the lotus. "My inheritance is in this place. Whether you can reach the Do D class depends on your own fate." An excited expression involuntarily surged into Xiao Yan's eyes as he looked at the brilliant lotus floating on the sea of fire. There was no longer any of the so-called origin qi remaining in the current Do Qi continent. This meant that there would no longer be anyone who could advance into the Do D class. Hun Tianyi had obtained the D-tier embryonic pill. This had given him the opportunity to step into the Do D class. The only hope of Xiao Yin and the Alliance army was this ancient god inheritance. There was only two ways remaining to advance into the Do D class in the current continent. This was because only the D-tier embryonic pill and the ancient god inheritance contained the two remaining origin qi in this world. My inheritance requires one to have a stone-like heart. As long as a single thread of thought exists, one would never be destroyed. The Tushi ancient god looked at the excited Xiao Yin. He smiled faintly and flicked his finger. That brilliant flame lotus slowly landed. Finally, it was suspended above Xiao Yan's head. "Who Xiao Yan inhaled a deep breath of air. He quickly calmed himself. All distractions had been eliminated with his determination. Buzz, buzz! The fire lotus emitted a strange luster, after which it slowly descended and directly penetrated through Xiao Yan's skin and landed inside his mind. Bah! Xiao Yan's body immediately turned red after the fire lotus entered. A terrifying, endless energy that caused one to be stunned spread within his body at a terrifying speed. In the blink of an eye, the veins within Xiao Yan's body had swelled. An intense pain spread throughout his meridians. Perspiration fell crazily out of the pores of Xiao Yan's body like a stream. His body had also shrunk many times within a short instant. That originally skinny body of his had become just like a monkey with skin over his bones. Pain covered Xiao Yan's face as his perspiration fell like a waterfall. That intense pain caused his face to become a little distorted. The Tushi ancient god watched this scene. His expression was calm. If Xiao Yan was unable to even endure through this initial stage, receiving the inheritance would be nothing but a joke. Xiao Yan's body was shrinking wildly within the sea of fire. Both of his eyes were suddenly opened at this moment. His eyes had exploded into a cluster of bloody fog. Bah! Both eyes burst apart. Soon after, explosions were emitted from all over Xiao Yan's body. Subsequently, his body was directly exploded because of the terrifying strength from the inheritance. The Tushi ancient god twitched his brow slightly upon seeing this. Now was the moment that the inheritance had begun. However, if Xiao Yan was unable to do as he said, the inheritance would not only be a failure, but both Xiao Yan's physical body and soul would also suffer an extremely serious injury. Have I failed? Xiao Yan's soul looked at the blood foy that spread. He could sense a weak feeling spreading from deep within his soul. That feeling gave him an impulse to fall into a giddy slumber. However, this impulse had only just appeared when Xiao Yan suddenly woke up. He was aware that he was currently at an extremely dangerous moment. If he was to simply fall into a slumber, even his soul would gradually scatter in the world. My physical body is too weak. I am unable to endure the strength of the inheritance. However, now that my physical body is destroyed, how can I absorb the energy? Xiao Yan's soul agglomerated into a transparent light cluster. He was currently in a difficult position. Without a physical body, he was unable to absorb the inheritance energy. However, refining a physical body required many complicated steps. Where would he find the time to refine a physical body now? A heart like a stone, as long as a single thread of thought exists, one would never be destroyed. The soul light cluster flickered wildly. At this critical moment, however, Xiao Yan's somewhat anxious heart had begun to calm down. His mind recalled the words that the Tushi ancient god had mentioned earlier and came to a comprehension. The soul light cluster he had turned into suddenly flickered intensely as his heart came to a comprehension. There was a brilliant light shooting out from within his soul. If one was to look carefully, one would find that it was surprisingly that fire lotus seed. After this brilliant light shot out, the blood fog that originally scattered suddenly began to shrink in a strange manner. After which, a mysterious scene appeared. One could see the blood fog gathering rapidly and enveloping around the soul light cluster. Within a short moment, it had once again formed a living physical body. Xiao Yan rejoiced in his heart after the physical body was formed. He could sense that the physical body he had formed this time around was actually much stronger than earlier. Création à midst de destruction. Continuously creating a new physical body to adapt to the inheritance strength. Xiao Yan's eyes flickered. An excited expression vaguely flashed across them. However, This excitement did not continue for long before the flame lotus once again emitted a terrifying strength, which could cause the entire world to tremble. Bah! The physical body that Xiao Yin had just formed had once again exploded into a bloody fog under the assault of the energy. This time around, even his soul itself felt an intense pain. A heart as firm as stone, and one will never be destroyed. Xiao Yin did not panic after having already comprehended the situation in his heart. He focused his mind and did not allow any distractions to appear. The blood fog that exploded once again gathered as Xiao Yan's mind and soul remained focused. In the blink of an eye, it had once again formed an even stronger new physical body. Boom, boom, boom. A continuous stream of low and deep sound appeared within the sea of fire. Xiao Yan's body continued to be agglomerate and explode in a repeated manner. It was as though a perfect cycle had been formed. A smile rose on the ancient god's face as he watched this scene. He nodded gently. This lad's comprehension was quite good. No wonder he was able to reach such a stage at a young age. Moreover, the most valuable aspect was that rock-like determination and perseverance. It looks like my mission is going to come to an end soon. The ancient god smiled. His tone contained a faint feeling of being freed. Time flew by amidst the training. Without realizing it, a year had swiftly passed. Xiao Yin had experienced countless number of destructions and rebirth during this 1 year. In the face of this cycle, even Xiao Yan's mind had become giddy despite his perseverance. Only that remaining thought of his firmly guarded his soul. This single desire drove his physical body to gradually adapt to the inherent strength amidst the countless number of destruction. However, there was still no end in sight amidst the bitter training. Self-destruction and rebirth continued on its endless cycle. 1 year within the heavenly tomb was over 2 months to the Doqi continent. During these 2 months, the Central Plains experienced an extreme fluctuation. The formation that was placed by the Han clan covered the entire Central Plains. This has resulted in the Central Plains become a place of death that one could not exit from. The originally azure sky was currently covered by a thick layer of blood cloud. Sunlight penetrated through the blood cloud and shone onto the land. A dark luster shot out, causing one to feel incomparably pressured. A bloody scent enveloped every corner of the Central Plains. Occasionally, many blood light would shoot out from the blood cloud covering the Central Plains. Corpse lay wherever the blood light passed, and blood flowed like river. This was a genuine calamity. Faced with this action from the Han clan, countless factions and sects appeared extremely furious initially. However, this fury had gradually turned into horror after they gathered together and attacked the formation, only to end up with most of them being killed by the blood light that seemed to penetrate the world. Only at this moment did they understand just how vicious and powerful the methods of the Han clan was. Faced with the blood light that would occasionally descend on them and cause blood to flow over the land, many sects and factions had no choice but to shift themselves. Their destination was naturally the headquarters of the SK Mansion Alliance. At this moment, only the area around the Sky Mansion Alliance headquarters within the Central Plains could resist the erosion of those blood light. Hence, within less than a month, the area within tens of thousands kilometers of the Sky Mansion Alliance was occupied by countless people. Every corner was filled with black masses of people. The entire Central Plains had descended into chaos at this moment. The Alliance was helpless in the faces of these factions that had hurried over to seek protection. All they could do was to join hands with many experts to unleash a huge defensive barrier that covered a 5,000-kilometer radius around the Sky Mansion Alliance. Despite this being the case, this defensive barrier still seemed to provide an inadequate space. Many factions had no choice but to engage in a conflict with the other factions in order to maintain their safe area. They even fought with each other, resulting in many deaths and injuries. However, the Alliance army was unable to intervene in this matter. It was already the limit of the Alliance army to perform so much. Order was completely absent under the threat of death. While they were defending, Gu Yuan, Zhu Kuan, and the others from the Alliance army had also tried cooperating to stop Han Tiandi from using all the lives in this world to complete the D-tier medicinal pill. However, they ended up returning in failure. How could it be so easy to destroy a formation that had absorbed blood and qi from countless of lives and guarded by Han Tiandi? Following the flow of time, the originally flourishing Central Plains was covered in desolation. At a glance, it was as though doomsday had arrived. With more time passing, everyone felt increasingly hopeless as they saw the aura within the blood cloud becoming increasingly fierce and monstrous. All of them understood that the moment that the demon came out from the blood cloud would be the moment when the Central Plains would come to an end. No one was able to stop this situation. The only thing that they could do was to simply watch as the bloody aura in the air became denser. The blood cloud covering the sun, Calamity descends on the Central Plains,